What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. I'm back home right now, and I wanted to play here at Encore in Boston, hopping into the 510 streets. It's going to be a good time. I'm on a little bit of a challenge, actually, today. It's currently 4 o'clock, just after 4 o'clock, and the poker room closes at like 7:30. So I've only got 3.5 hours to run it up or try to make some money, do something fun. It's going to be tough in a very short amount of time, but I'm ready to hop in there. No time to waste right now with very limited time. Let's get into the action. Let's get to the tables. Okay, let's hop into the old stomping ground here at Boston Encore. 510 is the game, and one of the first hands dealt in. I pick up ace-jack offsuit in early position. I raise it up to $30 to start off the action, and I get the hijack, button, and small blind to call. So multi-way here to start things off. Not something you see often at the 510 streets, but the flop comes ace, king, 8 rainbow. Pretty good flop for me, starting things off so far, and I decided to bet for value here. $80 to go into the middle, and I only get one player to make the call in the hijack with about $300 left, give or take. Everyone else folds, and we're gonna see the 7 of clubs on the turn. Brings in the backdoor flush draw, and I'm just basically going to put him all in. I bet out $250, and he goes over his decision for quite some time before electing on the decision to fold, sadly. No value here. Maybe he just had a weak ace or even a king, but good start to the 510 street so far, winning the first hand. Second hand to go, there's the $20 straddle on, which is a theme of this video. We basically play 5, 10, 20 this session, and I pick up ace 6 of spades in the big blind. Action folds around to the button, who raises to $70. Small blind folds, and onto me here. I think I like a 3-bet or fold strategy most of the time, considering the straddles on here. So I decided to 3-bet this hand to $300. Probably could have just called as well, but I don't want to do that. Straddle folds, and onto the button, who takes a while before calling. Maybe he wanted to 4-bet, maybe he wanted to fold, but he makes the call, so over $600 in the middle so far with not the best hand. The flop comes queen 6 deuce rainbow. So flopping middle pair here, and I think my decision point is to kind of bet or check a lot of the time. And being out of position, I decided to check my middle pair here, not with the intention to check fold. He ends up checking it back. So get to see a free turn, which is the 7 of clubs. Brings in a backdoor flush draw and doesn't really change the board too significantly here. I decided to check once again as played. I think the whole point is just to get to showdown or maybe call a bet. He ends up checking back. The river is a jack, so just a bunch of overcards over my pair here on the runouts. I check for the third time, and this time does not elect to check. He bets out $450. Trying to convince myself that he may have some random airball bluffs, potentially. Obviously, I feel like hands like bigger pocket pairs higher than the 6 isn't going to bet this big. Like 9s or 8s or 10s, they're not really going to like the queen high flop and then a jack on the turn. So it feels like he either just drilled this jack betting for value or maybe some random king high or 10 high bluffs that can't win at showdown. Honestly here with just 4th pair, seems like a pretty bad bluff catcher, but I'm curious and yeah, I'm stubborn. I'm trying to convince myself to making the call, which isn't that hard to convince. So I stick it in and he shows us ace jack. Yep, I suck at this game. I pay him $450 on the river. Easily could have gotten away at this one and not really happy with myself with this hand.
Now, you guys are a pretty savvy group, so I don't think I need to explain the risk and reward theory in poker, beyond reminding you that it's about looking for scenarios with the least variance and best expected value. But this is easier said than done, because if we read any news around the stock market, we see a ton of people who are afraid to lose their money due to all the turmoil in the global economy right now. But in fact, Bank of America says its clients are sitting on more cash than in the last 20 years. But you guys understand that people behave pretty irrationally and oftentimes don't act in their own self-interest. And with inflation around 8% in the US, keeping your money in cash is effectively like losing money. And why am I talking about all this? Because for months, I've been telling you guys about an asset that I think is the best low-risk investments you can make right now. Not only does this asset outperform major markets, Citi reports that it has the lowest correlation to major equities like stocks and bonds. On top of that, fine art has been hailed by the New York Times as bulletproof in the face of inflation. So you don't have to worry so much about losing losing 8% of your cash. And I'm talking about investing in fine arts. I know it sounds odd, and I've been recommending it for a while, and since I've been talking about it, my subscribers have invested literally hundreds of thousands of dollars into artworks by legends like Picasso and Banksy. That's hundreds of people keeping their money safe from inflation and market volatility by investing with Masterworks. The paintings on their platforms are not only a great inflation hedge, they can also create some enticing returns. In fact, Forbes says there are many reports out there showing the power of art collection to rival long-term return on bonds. So if you're sitting on 100K and want to de-risk and diversify, you should check out what Masterworks has to offer. You guys have invested so much with Masterworks that they want to continue offering my subscribers priority access to skip their wait list. So check out the link in the description below. Getting started only takes a few clicks, and big shout out to Masterworks for sponsoring this video.
From one donkey play into the next, potentially, I pick up pocket eights on the under the gun straddle. The button opens up the action to $60, same player from last hand. Small blind makes the call, and I decided on just making the call this time. And we're off to a flop, and pre-flop, I wanted to see what suits I had, but the flop answers that question. It's 10-8-8, 2 black 8s on the flop, which means I hold 2 red ones. Yeah, I just flopped quads, everyone. Unfortunately, not a lot of action here on this flop as action checks all the way around. We're going to see a turn which is the king of hearts. Small blind checks for a second time, and I'm electing to check again as I'd assume this button player is going to be betting this card a lot of the time given the passive action. A king on the turn should potentially hit this pre-flop aggressor much more than us. So I check it over to him with quads, and he rewards us with a bet of 130. The small blind player folds, and now it's on to me to get more money in the middle. Playing way more than $2,000 deep in this hand. It's definitely trying to check raise and size up a little bit here to $500. I'm not sure what I can get called by, but there are plenty of draws here on this board. Maybe even just a pair of kings can definitely pile money in the middle. And yeah, I check raise to 500, and he thinks it's a good price to make the call, which is going to be awesome because I can't lose. We're going to a river, which comes the 6 of clubs, a total brick. Every single draw missed, and I have a decision point to obviously bet here, but I don't know how big or small I should go. Because the draws bricked out, I think that a king would have a much easier time calling a bet, and potentially a big one at that. And I decided to experiment here and overbet the size of the pot by 2 times. I bet out $2,000, and that is going to cue at least 5 minutes of tanking. He's trying to ask what I have out here and asking me out loud in this hand. I typically don't respond, so I'm just kind of looking at the board when he's asking me a few questions. He might be trying to get a read off me. Who knows? I'm trying to look indifferent whether he calls or folds, and obviously internally I would love for him to call here. But after like 5 minutes, he's literally thinking on and on and on, and I'm kind of getting tired at this point, and I'm like visibly slouching after this tank. He counts out his chips, plays with his cards, looks like he's going to call, then looks like he's going to fold. It's kind of toying with our emotions here, and unfortunately he ends up throwing it away. He said he has a strong hand and later told me he had king 10 for top 2 pair. My soul just got completely owned as he only loses to an 8. Little did he know I had 2 of them. So don't get paid here on the river. This opponent makes a really nice fold. Kudos to him. And I guess we're just going to take down the pot, although could have taken down more against anyone else at the table. After that hand, I pick up pocket 8s once again, so it seems like a pretty easy hand to win. I'm in the small blind with an early position player who limps. Hijack raised to $75 and playing out of position, flopped quads last time with 8s. Let's bump up the size of the pot again here. I raise it up to $300 this time, and then the big blind to my direct left. He starts thinking. Seems super strong, and he doesn't 4-bet, but he does end up making the call for 300. The hijack comes along and calls as well, so 3 ways to a flop in a 3-bet pot. Once again, quads again, please, dealer. The flop comes queen 10-7, 2 diamonds. Not the flop I'm looking for with 8, 2 cards over my pair, and I don't feel like bluffing here into 2 different players. I decide with a check. Both players check back. Going to a turn which comes the ace of diamonds, and I actually think about this spot for a while as maybe I could start bluffing potentially, but I decided against not. I have, I guess, an 8 high flush draw, but playing out of position, and I'm not really liking the situation so far. Everyone checks again. Now the river comes the deuce of diamonds, and I improve to a flush. Unsure whether I'm going to call a bet, but checking seems like the most appropriate option as played. Once again, action checks all the way around, and I show my 8 high flush, hoping it's good, but the player on my left has pocket jacks with the jack of diamonds. Gonna lose this one. No magic here the second time with 8s, but it's only fair that jacks, the overpair, beats 8s. In the next hand, we go, there's unfortunately no $20 straddle on, surprisingly, but I pick up pocket 10s in the big blind. Action folds around to the button player, who raises it up to $35, same player that we've been battling with a good amount. Small blind folds, and onto me to raise up the price of poker. We're playing pretty deep, super deep, and I 3-bet to 180. Sizing up here because there's plenty of money to play for behind, and when he makes the call, we're going to a flop of king 3-6 2 diamonds, and out of position here, you could kind of start seeing a theme of how I play some specific flops. I start with a check. The board doesn't really hit me too often, besides me 3-betting hands like king queen or ace king, but here on the king high flop, he checks back. Going to a turn which comes the 6 of clubs, so there are 2 flush draws on board now, and what's cool is that I have both a club and diamond in my hand. I start with a check now as played, seems like it'd be pretty weird to bet, and now he sizes up to $200, and I have a pretty easy call. The middle card pairing shouldn't really change a whole lot as played on the flop, so I make the call for 200, and basically the plan is to check call any river. The river is the jack of clubs. That isn't actually an amazing one. Another card over my pair. I'm sitting with third pair now, and the backdoor flush got there. Anyways, I start with a check, and he quickly checks back, luckily, and I'll take it. Seems like a coin flip now, whether I win or lose these pots, but happy that this one went my way and back on the winning trail. The next hand gets a little dicey, so let's strap in with pocket 6s and low jack, $20 straddle back on. There's an early position player who limps, and isolating the limper, I raise it up to $80. No isolation here, though, as the cutoff player and the under the gun straddler make the call. So 3 ways to a flop of king 7-4 to clubs. Under the gun player starts off with a check, and I'm kind of confused whether I should bet or check here. I decided to check this one with third pair here on this flop, and the cutoff checks back. Lots of checking here so far in this game, and the turn comes the 8 of hearts, which is cool because 5-6 is the nuts, and I conveniently have 2 6s. The under the gun player bets out $200 here, and I definitely want to continue with this board because of the blockers that I have. Thinking that they're relevant, I'm not sure, but definitely not going to be folding, and I actually decided to just make the call. In hindsight, I feel like if I'm trying to rep a hand like 5-6, I probably should play like I have it, so I probably should have raised, but well. Anyways, the cutoff folds, and we're going to navigate a river here with just pocket 6s. The river is a 10, and great news, this player slows down and checks, giving me some rope to blast off. And if you saw that I overbet the board with pocket 8s with quads, I should probably overbet with some bluffs as well. And against this same opponent, having him shown that he folded top 2 pair against me to an overbet, he can fold a lot as well. So I'm going to blast out $800, and it's not a sweat. He snap folds, so this bluff gets through, which is nice. But definitely a theme here where if I'm going to do some really strong actions with good hands, I should probably do the same strong actions with bad hands, and I'm happy this one worked out. It's really nice to get that big bluff through, and this time I have ace queen in early position with the straddle on. I raise it up to $60, and I get 2 players to make the call in the cutoff and big blind. So in middle position here, going to a flop, which comes ace 10, 7, 2 clubs. Pretty good board, as I kind of have it all locked up with top pair, good kicker, and the ace of clubs. I decided to bet out $150 here, and I get the cutoff to call. So not really playing many hands in position, but out of position we go once again, and the turn is the deuce of clubs. Now with 3 clubs on the board here, I feel like checking makes the most sense. Not entirely sure. Let me know in the comments below if you would have bet or checked this with my specific hand. Really want to hear about that, but I decided to check, maybe do some pot control out of position, and this player bets out $275. I think I just have a pretty easy and standard call here. Not going to do anything else. Obviously, folding would be a sin with the nut flush draw, and raising seems like an overplay. So 275, we go off to a river, which is a beautiful 3 of clubs. Bink City, we have the nuts again. As played here, I think leading here seems super strong, and maybe there's a chance he can bet with some bluffs. So I check, and he does not disappoint. He grabs for chips and bets out $500. He's got maybe 800 behind in the stack, and it's a pretty easy spot. I'm sitting with the nuts, and what do you do with the nuts? You go all in. That's right. We're going to put this player into maximum pressure here and going all in for about 1,300 effective. To be quite honest with you, I'm not even sure what hands are going to call here besides him having the king of clubs, and at that might be a little ambitious, but he quickly folds, doesn't look too interested in the pot, and I'm glad this hand worked out. Going runner into the nuts is always a very ideal circumstance. So it's been a nice run of the last few hands here. All right, things are going well. Let's keep this heater alive. I have ace 7 of spades with the straddle on, and I decide to raise things up from middle position to $60. Player to my left makes the call, and the button makes the call. So little did you know, once again, we are playing out of position, and the flop is an interesting one, which is 4, 5, 6 rainbow with 1 spade. So flopping 2 overcards, an open-ended straight draw, and some backdoor flush opportunities. I decided to check as I didn't want to bet into the field of this one. The player to my left bets out $45. The button folds, and I'm not going anywhere here. I maybe could be able to raise sometimes, but I just make the call. We're going to a turn, hoping to improve. It's the Jack of Hearts, so every single suit is available on board. I check it over to him, and now he bets out $100. Sizing up a little bit here, and it seems like a pretty bad spot to call out of position with ace high. And maybe I could just blow him off of some 1 pair holdings betting twice here. So I go for it. Check raise it up to $400, sizing up a little bit. And then he insta goes all in for $750 total. That was not part of the plan, to be quite honest with you. Unfortunate spots, it's only 350 more, and if I'm going to commit $400 into the middle, better call the 350, even though I hate my life doing it. So certainly can't fold, but not loving the situation. Let's see what he's got. I make the call. The river is a board pairing 6. Sitting with ace high, no improvement. He shows 4-5 offsuit. Called the preflop raise with this beautiful natural in Baccarat, and just like in Baccarat, 4-5 is gonna be the nuts. Just a pair of 5s. You take it. I give him a full double up. Nice hand, sir. This next hand gets a little dicey. By a little dicey, I mean, you know what? Let's just get into it. I have king jack offsuit and a low jack with the straddle on. I raise it up to $60, and I get the cutoff and button to make the call. Theme of the channel, theme of this video so far is we're playing out of position. Going to a flop of queen 10-4 to spades, and this is a board texture that I have a lot of merit to betting with, but out of position, multi-way, those reasons I just check, although I certainly could bet. Anyways, the cutoff checks, and then the button bets out $100. Facing this large bet, I don't love calling with just king high out of position, so let me just check my suits. I see the jack of spades, and that is going to give me enough rope to take the green light and go for a check raise. Take the aggressive route whenever I seem fit, and this one's a decent spot potentially. I go for it and check raise up to $400. Once again, check raising as a semi-bluff to a certain degree. And when the cutoff folds onto this player who has about $3,000 in his stack, he ends up making the call. So let's bink and go for all of it, right? We're off to a turn here, hoping to bink this one. It is the deuce of diamonds. Just such a brick. Oh, man. Not loving it, but I will say that on these brick runouts, I should be able to have some overbetting. And like I said, I overbet as pure value with pocket eights. I should be able to do it as bluffs as well. So with just an open-ended straight draw, I decided to size way up to $1,500, and this player goes deep into the tank. What's cool is that this player might know that I only overbet with the nuts, as the last time I bet way big compared to the size of the pot, I announced I had quads. So here he thinks about it for a while. Looks like his decision is to either go all in or fold. And granted, if he went all in, I'd be in a pretty horrible spot. But He ends up folding, which is beautiful. It's nice to get this one through with king high. With how long he took to think about it, he probably just folded a queen, and I'm not going to complain about that. We'll take it down. Almost wrapping up the session here, one of the last hands to close out the night. I have queen jack of spades in +1, early position, no straddle on, so I raise up to $30. Player to my left makes the call and action folds the small blind, who doesn't play too many hands, and he ends up actually raising to $140. Not great or comfortable because I can only assume this player is going to be 3-betting super strong hands, especially from that position. But I have suited Broadway cards. They're right next to each other and they're fun to play. Let's see a flop in position. I make the call, and surprisingly, the player to my left calls as well. So looks like everyone wants to see some flops. Going to a flop of queen 8-5, 2 hearts, and a spade. The small blind actually starts off with a bet of $250. A little bit more than half pot is pretty interesting, and honestly, I'm kind of expecting them to like have aces and kings and maybe ace king sometimes, but you know, my hand's a little too good, a little too stubborn. Not going to fold this one just yet. I make the call here for $250. Player to my left folds. Off to a turn which comes the king of hearts, which seems pretty disastrous, as basically the one hand that I thought I lost to just got there. Surprisingly, I see him check now, and okay. I guess I'm going to check this one back, see a free river. Maybe we can just go to showdown. We're off to a river, which now comes the jack of diamonds. Bank, I think? Sitting with 2 pair is amazing and feeling a bit better, and now I'm planning to call whatever bet this player is going to throw out, but he checks again. Really confused about the line, confused as to what he's doing right now, but definitely time to bet for value, I believe. And if I face a check raise, I'm going to have to uncomfortably fold. But sitting with middle 2 pair, essentially, I size up to $750. In my head, I basically only beat pocket aces and ace king that might play this way. I feel like everything else that would be better would check raise, but this player thinks for a long while and ends up calling. I gotta be good, right? I show the queen jack and he mucks. No idea what he had, but I would only assume a premium, but it's nice to win a pretty big pot nearing the end of the poker room closing. The night's almost finished. Let's cash out. All right, our welcome back to Encore went okay, all things considered. We played for like a little over 3 hours before the room started to shut down and closing out all the tables, and I was in the game for $46.50, kind of buried in the beginning. Just played pretty bad, undisciplined, just a little too stupidly, paid off stuff that I shouldn't have and lost a bit, but I ended up bouncing back, running pretty hot, cashing out for $6,180. So that was good. Extra $750 from the thin river bet with queen jack there was nice to get paid. Could have been nicer if I got paid $2,000 with quads, but the opponent made a really good fold. And there's that. Quads back at Encore. Thanks so much for watching this video. Thank you to the Encore, I don't know, at HQ and whoever that might be watching this, letting me keeping this video up. That would be good as long as this video is up. But yeah, it's been a fun day. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Probably a lot more tournaments to come. See you next time. Peace.